When I was young, I used to play a ton of mobile game shooters that were terrible because they didn't make any sense. Those games were mostly knockoff games that were popular on PCs such as Counter-Strike or Call of Duty. These games are still shown in modern mobile games that are in most ads. But when a game implements the right background, it makes the game so much better. Here are the ways how setting can make a first-person shooter better. In some games, different locations can implement different mechanics shown in games like Portal. Portal, made in 2007, is a puzzle game where you shoot portals so you can travel through one portal to another. You use these portals in order to solve test chambers by a company known as Aperture Science. The test chambers are mostly empty and linear, with most surfaces being sci-fi colors such as white, black, blue, and red. Portal makes the player feel alone and isolated, while only being accompanied with personified robots. Portal 2, made in 2011, is a sequel to Portal, with more mechanics and test chambers. At one point of the game, the player stumbles on an old part of Aperture being very run down. The setting of musty green water and mostly huge rusty unstable structures would smoothly transition the new mechanics in Portal to gels. The setting in Portal 2 contrasts as more spacious, expansive, and old than Portal 1. To sum up, the two Portal games have different backgrounds, one being clean and in a laboratory, while the other is an old, cracked part of Aperture. Both settings make the player transition from one game mechanic to another, plus the old testing chambers aren't the only example. Once you leave the old Aperture, you also learn the extrusion funnel when you meet Wheatley in Chapter 8. In other games, background makes navigation on certain maps way easier, such as the game Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2, made in 2007, is a multiplayer team-based shooter where you fight against the other team on objectives in different game modes. There is a red team and a blue team. TF2's art style is incredible, with it being more cartoony and simple unlike some other games. Each team base is made of different materials. The red team's buildings mostly consisted of wood and brick. Blue team is more industrial, having metal, concrete, and cobble. The reason why navigation is so good is because it tells the players which team they're going to. If all of the materials on a map mostly consist of the same material, then each team wouldn't know where they are on the map. The material helps you navigate across the map on knowing which team's territory they are in. One example that doesn't follow this rule though is the map Mercenary Park. Other than the red metal catwalks, there's absolutely none of the materials that were different and remain the same. In the final part of Mercenary Park, it is usually the same material for buildings, with no sense of direction where to go. Since everything on the map looks similar, players may get lost for a while, unlike experienced players who memorize the layout of the map without using the materials. Different materials on a map make certain sections memorable, such as the wooden pier and upward, or the change in materials from 3rd preload to 4th on Badwater. In short, the setting of a map helps people navigate the area by using materials and knowing where they are. This is useful for making both new players and old players know the general layout of the map. Most shooters have enemies that would stand out against the background. Two of these games are Doom 1993 and Superhot. Doom, made in 1983, is a single-player first-person shooter where you shoot aliens from another planet. As you continue the game, you get new weapons and power-ups to fight against stronger enemies. The setting in the Doom is unusual, but it works because the background helps to make the enemies stand out. The enemies in Doom are each unique and are a variety of color. Unlike Doom 3, where most enemies blend in the darkness, Doom 1993's enemy sprites can, what's the word here, can actually be seen. Doom 3 is one example of a game having a visibility issue. Seeing the difference between enemies and walls can also help speedrunning, because you can see and shoot aliens without any trouble. Superhot, made in 2016, is also a single-player first-person shooter where you shoot red guys. The main premise of the game is that time only moves when you move. The setting is purely white, except for black objects that are either weapons or important details that stand out. The enemies in Superhot are red. Most red things in life represent a sign of danger. The color choice of Superhot will alert the player immediately that there is a weapon or enemy nearby, and because of this, it'll start making the player think about what they should do next. In conclusion, both games show how the setting can make opponents be more obvious. Doom 1993 uses sprites of enemies to its advantage by having various different colors against the background. Superhot, however, uses simplicity in order to alert the player to know the situation that they're in.
Freeman, right? I've got a message for you. Make sure you don't...
When playing a first-person shooter, you would need to make it entertaining and fun. Sometimes you need immersion to get that fun to players. An example of a game like this is Half-Life. Half-Life, made in 1998, is a single-player first-person shooter where you play as Gordon Freeman, a scientist stuck in a laboratory named Black Mesa after an alien species invaded Earth. However, the government wants to keep all this a secret from the public, so they send in troops in order to wipe out both the aliens and staff from Black Mesa. Later in the game, the government also sends out special Black Ops in order to launch a nuke and terminate all of Black Mesa. The player is stuck in different parts of Black Mesa throughout the game, and it's their job to fight and try to get help from the outside. As the player continues to each chapter, there is a different setting. Each chapter's setting makes sense to what they are. In the chapter Office Complex, you see a dining area, vending machines, and even a freezer. Stuff that might be in a secret laboratory. In the chapter Anomalous Materials, before the incident happened, you get to see scientists' normal daily lives. There's scientists at the offices, cafeteria, and in the bathroom. The added detail of certain locations and what the scientists do in that location makes the player feel more immersed in what they're doing. The minor details of staff in the game helps to create a story about an experiment that went horribly wrong and killed all these people. Who in this act? The world building in Half-Life is small for today's standards, but in 1998, this was one of the first-person shooters that tells us a full story. Half-Life didn't need these small details of certain locations and people's lives, but they put them there anyway, because it helps mold the story on how disastrous this incident was. When reflecting back on those FPS mobile games I used to play as a kid, I wonder, why were those games so bad? I mean, they were better than modern mobile games now, but it was still terrible. It was because those games didn't have one of these 4 key elements of mechanics, navigation, visibility, and immersion against the setting of the game. This is my first video, so I hope you liked it. I'll be posting more content soon, I swear. Anyways, bye.
I'm at Walmart and this is blatant false advertising. This is not Prime. That is divisible by 2.